practice they had, and Marquise Bolden, who is a very agile big guy. That's a lot of talent. They look like a senior group in those suits. Those are short-looking guys. Not bad. You might want to get in touch with a tailor, not to cast a Spurs.
They're trying to figure out where to sit. They're not used to being that far down the bench. Getting ready to go with Kansas, the home team, Duke, the visiting team, and underway here in Game 2 at the Garden.
Frank Mason coming off a 30-point game, going to be guarded by Matt Jones, an excellent defender and a lot bigger.
And Jackson banks one home over Kennard.
Well, that's a smart way for Kansas to start out the game there. Putting Josh Jackson, who struggled a little bit against Indiana, down in the post and to get him started early. Get him feeling good about himself.
And he should have a bit of a size advantage over whichever of the perimeter players for Duke is covering him.
Interesting decision by Kansas. They're putting Frank Mason on Grayson Allen.
Kennard answers at the other end to tie it at 2.
Putting Mason on Allen, he can get up underneath him and cause some problems.
Grayson Allen, such a great year last year for the Blue Devils, better than 21 points per game as Emil Jefferson dribbles it off his foot. Luke Kennard does his Curly Neal impersonation to keep the ball alive. I just dated myself a little bit with that reference.
You certainly do. At least you didn't say Marcus Haynes.
Yeah. Well, then you got the reference, so you're right there with me.
I'm a student of the game. I'm a young man who's been a student of the game.
Chase Jeter getting a chance to play more because of the injuries to the freshman. And Emil Jefferson extended that left forearm or elbow and gets called for the offensive foul.
Now, this Kansas team has a chance to be a really good defensive team, especially at the guard spots. And Landon Lucas does a nice job. He's got that left arm on, but as long as you don't put two hands on the ball handler, that's going to be deemed incidental contact.
Back over to Kansas, tied at 2 in the early going. Mason, second team All-Big 12 a year ago, off to his buddy in the backcourt, Devontae Graham. And we're going to have a call going against the Jayhawks under the glass.
Yeah, a little push off on Landon Lucas. One thing for Kansas, the challenge defensively is going to be to stay with Duke's shooters, but at the same time taking away drives. And you're going to get spread out. And Duke has so many good shooters. One thing, you don't want to have closeouts to these guys. That means you got to stick with them. But that's going to open up some driving lanes.
And again, Mason guarding Allen here in the early going. Jackson is on Jones. Jefferson gets free underneath.
Well, what a nice pass by Matt Jones.
And now a Kansas turnover trying to get the ball inbounds. And Emil Jefferson is fired up.
Well, Jefferson just stayed and tried to deny that inbound pass and did deny it. One thing that Carlton Bragg didn't do, he didn't change his angle. He just stood there. You can move on that baseline, and he needed to move to improve that angle where he could get the ball into Devontae Graham.
How big is it for Duke, especially with the injuries they've got, that Jefferson was granted the medical red shirt and is back for another year?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, think about how good he was last year to start the season before he got injured. I mean, he was averaging 11, 12 points, 10 rebounds, shooting a phenomenal percentage from the field. But one of the great things about having him back, not just his experience, but his voice, because he's an excellent communicator on the defensive end. He's kind of like a linebacker behind the line of scrimmage where he can bark out orders. And those guys ought to go on the road. That is a good-looking singing group there. That's impressive.
4 injured Blue Devils. The guy in the far right is not one of the freshmen. That's Sean Obi, who played sparingly with the Blue Devils last year. But it's the 3 freshmen who are so highly thought of, including Harry Giles. You've had a chance to see Giles more than most of us.
Yeah, watch him in high school. Both me and Tatum watch him in high school. And he's a special talent, an elite rebounder, kind of a Chris Webber type player. But he hasn't played 5-on-5 in over a year.
Kennard with a drive and the kick. Jones with a 3.
That's the hard part about playing Duke. You know, Luke Kennard has become more than a shooter. He's a playmaker. So he gets into the lane, collapses the defense, and they just kick it out to an open shooter. And that's what Matt Jones does. He's a spot-up shooter.
There is no prototypical point guard for the Blue Devils, although Mike Krzyzewski doesn't even like labeling players with that kind of a term, as that basket is not going to count. Offensive foul on Mason. But for Duke, whether it's Allen, whether it's Jones, whether it's Kennard or Jackson, who we'll see later on, a lot of different guys can initiate the offense.
Yeah, you see how 3 guys converge on the ball, and that leaves Matt Jones wide open. And one thing you really can't do, whether it's college basketball, the NBA, you cannot help off of a corner shooter. And that was a long closeout, and Matt Jones doesn't get that long to shoot a horse game.
Foul on Jeter of the Blue Devils after the miss on the driving layup by Grayson Allen.
Duke can put on full court pressure. It looks like they're going a little 1-2-2 3-quarter court. And with Emil Jefferson and his length pointing that press, got to get somebody in the middle, catch, face, and attack.
Jackson cross court Graham. Graham finds a seam and is called for the offensive foul after unloading the pass.
You know, Jeter led this team in charges taken last year. And he's a guy that is a good shot blocker and is just getting better and better. Having guys like Giles and Tatum and Marquise Bolden out has really helped Jeter get some extra playing time. And he needs to take advantage of it because he's got a chance. He was the 11th ranked player in the country last year coming out of high school. He's got a chance to be very good.
Kennard with Graham on him. And Kennard is called for the offensive foul, again extending the off arm. Well, we have had a slew of offensive fouls here in the first 3 minutes.
I have found it offensive. You can watch this left arm. He's a lefty, and you can see just a little discard with chicken wing. No question that was the right call.
So each team turnover prone in the early going, mainly because of offensive fouls. And the Jayhawks just 2 points 3 minutes into the game.
Luke Kennard on the freshman Josh Jackson.
Jackson for 3.
Grayson Allen got away. Grayson Allen pushed him. James Breeding had the call right. He just pointed the wrong way. The foul was on Allen, is no question, but it looked like he was going to say it was Duke's ball. A few groans in the crowd.
And one of the points of emphasis, Jay, you saw the video as I did, is action underneath the basket. On rebounding is pushing a guy under the basket. Or
but you don't need a point of emphasis for that. Those are blatant pushes.
And another foul, man. And the officials have been told to call the game closer. The intent is to hopefully that the players adjust. It opens up the game, but it makes it more free-flowing.
You're right, and I'm not arguing it. There's nothing to adjust to on this. He had 2 hands on the ball handle. That's been a foul forever.
Yeah.
And so the referees haven't made a controversial call yet. Right. All the calls have been right.
Jackson cut off on the baseline by Jones. Carlton Bragg Jr. gets the bounce.
And that's his game. He is a mid-range jump shooter. I think Carlton Bragg is one of the biggest keys to Kansas's success this year. Their big guys have got to be able to score, and he's the guy that can. But he's been inconsistent.
Allen, no. Yeah, last year, Kansas, of course, last 4 years, they had Perry Ellis who could score on the inside. Great block by Jeter, and he comes up with a recovery as well.
A basket-saving play to an advantage situation.
And Kennard is fouled.
That was a big-time block by Chase Jeter. Didn't give up on the play. Frank Mason made a great catch. Boy, that was a great block with the left hand. Great block.
Kansas will go smaller now. LeGerald Vick comes into the game. And Bragg goes out. And this is a look we're going to see a lot from the Jayhawks with Josh Jackson, who's really a perimeter guy, playing the 4 spot. And Bill Self, as you can see, is stomping mad. There was a foul just called against the Jayhawks on the inbounds play, and it's on Mason, and it's his second.
Right, that's the first foul that you can go, wait a minute, that wasn't a foul. Because that shouldn't have been called.
That is a huge loss now for Kansas. Sviatoslav Mikhailiuk comes into the game, so Graham will be the primary ball handler for the Jayhawks. Jones inside, a lot of traffic. And a held ball, and the arrow will keep it with Duke.
One of the things on out-of-bounds plays that I find, especially out-of-bounds under, I find really interesting is why teams don't play more zone. Just to take, when you're trying to guard all these cuts and man-to-man, you're putting yourself in a position of picking up a foul, and especially a cheap one early. Like, I don't think that was a foul. I think that was a horrendous call. But that was the only bad call so far.
the shot fake. Nice dish underneath. Jeter slams it home.
Well, you have got to stay down on fakes because that just opened the lane up. You give up middle to Duke, they're going to hit you with a 3 or a drop-off.
How many guys, Jay, can shoot as well as Allen can and can drive as well as Allen can?
Not that many. But it's multiple guys on this. What a pass.
Graham to Lucas. How pretty was that?
What a pass. Devontae Graham, you look at this backcourt, it's amazing to me. Devontae Graham was supposed to go to Appalachian State, and Frank Mason had committed to Towson. And they are arguably the best starting backcourt in the country.
Jefferson lays it in and restores the 5-point advantage for the Blue Devils.
But Kansas right now is awfully easy to score upon. And that's usually not the case with a Bill Self team.
Jackson will draw the foul. Jeter gets called for the foul to take us to our first media timeout. The pace picking up after a ton of whistles in the early going and a couple of great plays. Grayson Allen seeing Chase Jeter. Jeter slams it home for the Blue Devils at the other end. How about the pass from Graham to Lucas? Duke and Kansas just getting started.
The thing for him when he gets back is the mental hurdle of getting over being injured twice in the last couple of years. Because medically he's sound, and they're waiting for exactly the right time to bring him back. I know Mike Krzyzewski said, you know, bring him back to what? Like he hasn't played yet, so he's not coming back. But I mean, coming back to 5-on-5 basketball. You know, not to have, they haven't had their complete team together, and you can see just in a few minutes how good they are now. They're top 5 good now. You bring Jason Tatum and Marquise Bolden and Harry Giles into the fold, and you're looking at by far the most talented team in America.
Allen draws the foul, and Duke has had some very talented teams that haven't necessarily been deep and haven't necessarily been big. This team will be very deep, and they'll be huge if all these guys come in.
Yes, this is the biggest team Mike Krzyzewski's ever had, and it could be a little bit like that Kentucky team a couple years ago that went 38-0 going into the Final Four before losing to Wisconsin. I mean, it's a team with 8 McDonald's All-Americans, and that doesn't include Harry Giles because he didn't get that designation because of the injury.
Right.
And he would have. He was the #1 player in that class before getting injured.
They're up 12-6 as Allen makes the first. Landon Lucas just picked up a second foul for Kansas. So 2 Jayhawks already with 2 fouls. And freshman Udoka Azubuike, a 7-footer from Nigeria, is into the game now for KU.
There's that 1-2-2 3/4 court press, slows the advance. Azubuike's a big body, and Kansas wants him when he gets the ball inside. They want him to go up and dunk. But he's going to have to guard some on the perimeter because Duke's got a small lineup in there.
Mikhailiuk almost lost it. Azubuike trying to gather. And it's Duke ball, mainly because the Blue Devils were the ones to hit the floor first. Matt Jones got down and kept that ball alive.
That's exactly right. Kansas bent over at the waist for the ball. Duke got on the floor, and it's no surprise they wound up getting it.
That'll be a learning lesson for Josh Jackson, who was the player involved, when they watched the film of this game, that Jones just got down to the deck much quicker.
Oftentimes, that's what happens with freshmen. They bend over at the waist to get the ball. They try to dribble it up instead of get down on the floor. Duke's diving on it. Kansas was bending over for it, and that's why Duke got it.
The other end, a foul on Vic, and Luke Kennard is at the line. The 6'6" sophomore from Franklin, Ohio. Maybe a little bit overlooked with Allen back and Jefferson returning and all the freshmen, but this is an important guy in that Duke rotation as well.
Yeah, he's way more than a shooter. He's a playmaker, and you can see he shot 90% from the free throw line. He missed a couple free throws in their last game, and you know, you almost fell out of your seat when you saw that. He can really shoot it, but he's also a really good passer, and he's an underrated defender.
Good hands by Frank Jackson, freshman from Alpine, Utah.
Yeah, we've been talking about all these other freshmen, rightfully so. Jason Tatum and Harry Giles are going to be terrific players. The best athlete on the Duke team is Frank Jackson. I mean, he's really explosive. Won the dunk contest at the McDonald's game, then was co-MVP of the game.
And has scored 39 points in Duke's first 2 games. Lopsided wins over Marist and Grand Canyon. Kansas 0-1 after the loss to Indiana. They came straight to New York from Honolulu. They've been here a few days as Jackson misses the jumper. And here comes Kennard.
Jackson cannot just settle for jumpers. He has got to find his way into the lane.
Loose ball to Jefferson. He finds Jackson, but yep, you're right. And Mike Krzyzewski's asking, was it a double dribble? Was it steps? What exactly was the violation? Walk on the pickup there?
Yeah, he walked on.
Still a 9-point lead for the Blue Devils, 6.5 in. LeGerald Vick knew he missed it, followed it hard as Jackson is on the offensive glass and will be rewarded with a trip to the free throw line.
Well, Kansas finding it so difficult to score in this early going. They haven't really moved the ball from side to side. And right now, it's hard for them to throw the ball into the paint. Years past, Kansas would run something called two-game. It was like a high-low. And their guys would run some ball screens out of it, but they would let their defender get on top, and they would wedge him up, and they would just throw over the top, and they'd get a lot of layups, a lot of easy baskets. And right now, their big guys are not the kind of targets that can score inside.
And they're 0 for 4 from the line. 0 for 4 from the line, 0 for 4 from 3. And Kansas has 6 points, and they're down by 9. Allen. And Bragg down with a rebound, and a foul is going against the Jayhawks. Bill Self is livid again.
Yeah, I don't get that one. You got to let the guys rebound. I mean, this is a physical game. I know the emphasis is on, cleaning up the extracurricular stuff, but I'm not sure that's what everybody meant.
And it's bonus both ways, Jay, less than 7 minutes into the game. The foul was on Bragg, his second. So he becomes the third Jayhawk to pick up 2 fouls here in the first half, and he heads to the bench.
Yeah, when you mentioned they're in the bonus, like, we've questioned 2 calls. All the other ones are, in my judgment, right. So, we're not talking about a bunch of calls that are being missed. It's a couple. And really the answer to fewer whistles is the players have to stop fouling. Get your hands off people, move your feet.
Vick off balance, follows it up, lays it in.
A nice play by LeGerald Vick. He did not give up on the play after he shot the ball. He knew that he'd missed it. And oftentimes the guy who shoots it knows.
Well, how about Jackson lowering the shoulder, inviting the contact on that drive, but he missed the runner.
Freshman didn't look like Frank Jackson in that play. That guy's one powerful guard.
Or Azubuike. Baseline, Jackson with a reverse.
That's what Josh Jackson needs to do. Straight line drives to put pressure on the defense. And all of a sudden, after a couple good plays and stops, Kansas is looking a lot more confident and right back in this game.
Mike Krzyzewski will take a timeout. Bill Self says he shouldn't be just a shooter. He should be a junkyard dog. Jackson for the baseline.
Without Frank, how do you find a way to score?
Well, we're in bad foul trouble. They're in a little bit of foul trouble themselves, but we got to somehow piece it together here the next 8 minutes or so.
Get some stops.
They are in bad foul trouble, as he says, and they were in a lot of foul trouble, although Indiana was as well in that overtime game out in Hawaii. But Bill Self's having to put combinations on the floor that he didn't anticipate needing this early in the game.
Well, you just got to be smart. You may give up some baskets. You just have to make the shots as tough as you can. Make them take a difficult shot, but fouling, you cannot foul. It's not only you're going to put guys on the bench like Frank Mason. I mean, he's going to be sitting out basically 16 minutes of this half. If Bill Self can get away with it. But then you're putting the opponent on the free throw line where they can score with no defense.
What's your thought, or is it too much of a generalization, but do you have a thought on should guys have to come out? Do you believe that guys should come out when they pick up their second foul in the first half?
Well, in this type of game where you're picking up some fouls, you can't afford it. Here's the foul that Frank Mason picked up, and he did grab Grayson Allen here. I think though he got, you can question whether that screen was legal, all that stuff, if we're going to go by the letter of the law. But he can't grab him there. You got to let him go. And so that was a good call. Didn't look like it live action.
Azubuike to the cutting Vick.
A good pass by Azubuike. When he caught it, he should have gone straight up. I think he would have scored, got fouled, or both. But that was a really good play to get out of there with a bucket.
And the Jayhawks have gotten a 9-point deficit down to 3.
That was a good play by Josh Jackson in the post.
Jefferson called for another travel. Josh Jackson has to be careful. He just slapped the ball out of Jefferson's hands. I don't know if anybody saw it. Yes,
No,
they did. He got teed up. Not a good play by Josh Jackson. I don't know if Bill Self saw it. Remember, in the college game, a technical is a personal. They can ill afford to pick up any more fouls. Just the first, though, on Jackson. But watch him slap the ball right there. You just can't do that.
I don't know why. It's a dead ball. It's not his ball anymore. It's not the. I don't know whether that requires a technical. I don't know, it's unsporting, I guess, but it's a dead ball.
And nearly an automatic free throw shooter with the line, Grayson Allen.
He really is a good free throw. He's a good shooter from anywhere. That's the best part. As good as he is at other things, and he's really good at other things, the best part of Grayson Allen's game is he can really shoot it. And especially in catch and shoot situations, if you give him a little bit of space, he's going to drill it.
So Kansas ball down by 4 after the technical on Jackson. Graham at the point with Mason on the bench with 2 fouls. Lob inside. Azubuike trying to control.
Double dribble. He's got to go straight up. Yep. He's so big and strong. That's the second time he's gotten it in there without going straight up.
NBA Wednesday doubleheader coming your way tomorrow night. It begins with the Warriors in Toronto to take on the Raptors, who lost a thriller to the Cavs tonight. The second game has the Grizzlies and the Clippers. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. Allen for 3.
He made a really nice move. Kansas went over the top. He bumped back into the corner and then a shot fake.
Nick a little bit out of control, gathers himself and finds Graham. Crossover by Graham all the way to the rim.
Oh, what a pretty move off that ball screen. Azubuike can really set a good screen. He's so big. And Devontae Graham used it, sought out some body contact, didn't get the foul call to finish the play.
Self looking for some big minutes out of Azubuike tonight. He didn't play a whole lot against Indiana. How quickly they get up and down the floor, all the shooters, all the perimeter guys that they have. Jackson can't turn the corner. Good help there by Azubuike. Jeter can't finish it, but he draws the foul. And it's on Jackson, and because of the technical, that is now the second foul on Josh Jackson.
Devontae Graham on the other end, getting that high ball screen, little flat screen from Azubuike. And when he comes off of it, Chase Jeter gives him a little bit of space, goes right around him and then right into him, and is still able to complete that play. That's the way you use a ball screen.
So Jay, now with Jackson picking up his second, he'll come out at least for a while, and Bill Self is going to trust his veteran leader, Frank Mason III, a senior, to play with 2 fouls at least for a few minutes here in the first half.
Well, and the key for Frank Mason is you can give up a bucket. You can get a bucket back. You cannot get a foul back. So you have to be really smart. As a senior, that shouldn't be being smart. It will not be a problem. But you have to be really disciplined defensively.
It's an 8-1 run for Kansas. Make it 10. Svi Mikhailiuk. And it's a tie game.
Kansas's defense has really picked up. They've got to maintain their intensity without fouling.
Jayhawk Nation making all kinds of noise here in New York right now.
Nice job by LeGerald Vick to stick with Grayson Allen.
Matt Jones into traffic. And a Duke turnover.
Well, Kansas's pressure is making Duke go really, really fast. Was that Sasha Khan there? I think that was a Sasha Khan signing.
Former Jayhawks big man. Vick to inbound it as Kansas looks for the lead.
Kansas was just down 9 and made this comeback with Frank Mason on the bench.
Mason misses the runner. Jones down with the rebound. Deflected away, but still Duke ball. Well, Kansas really picking up the energy level and doing it with an unlikely group on the floor because of all the foul trouble that they've had here.
Well, and one of the problems with this foul trouble is Devontae Graham can't get a break. So you can't really take him out. Remember, he cramped up in Hawaii. He also cramped up in one of their exhibition games.
Jeter giving up a lot of size to Azubuike, but he spun around him and forced Azubuike into a foul. His first.
And Azubuike will learn this, but you just have to stay big and stay wide. The one thing you can't allow Chase Jeter to do there is get past you. He can shoot over you, but you make him take a tough shot over you. You can't let him get past you.
Chase's dad played for the 1990 UNLV Runnin' Rebel National Champions, a team that beat Duke in 1990 in the championship game.
Yes, that was by 30. I was a grad assistant. That was probably my scout.
And you were in broadcasting shortly thereafter. I didn't think it was necessary to Photoshop you out of the Final Four picture that year, but not my doing, so
They photoshopped me out of the teams I played on.
2-point lead Blue Devils, and Kansas running the weave. Graham for the lead.
Good rebound. How about that play by Devontae Graham?
He's a player.
You know, one thing guards don't do well is guards don't block out that well. And shot goes up, you know, you're supposed to get a body, especially on the shooter. And the shooter goes and makes a layup after getting that rebound. What a great play by Devontae Graham.
We are tied again. Kennard. Little fadeaway, nice touch.
So right there, Azubuike made Luke Kennard take a tough. He made a tough shot. Didn't foul him. You know, these guys aren't good. They're going to make tough shots. There's never been a shutout in basketball. But you gotta make them take tough ones.
Knocked out of bounds, still belongs to Kansas.
Kansas has to figure out a way to get shots for Svi Mikhailiuk. He can really shoot it. And he's got to really work hard to find shots.
Got Kennard on him right now out of the perimeter. Both teams going with relatively small lineups here, with the exception of Azubuike, who's enormous in the middle.
Well, with that size, it means Duke can switch just about everything.
Yep. Jeter's a front court player for Duke, but the other four guys on the floor for the Blue Devils are perimeter guys, and really you could say the same for Kansas. Jeter and Azubuike are the only forwards.
See, right now I'd go to Grayson Allen. He's got Svi Mikhailiuk on him. Let him drive Mikhailiuk.
Good job by Jackson to fight around that screen. Mason to Graham. Graham inside, tried to lob it up for Azubuike, deflected away. Great hustle by Mikhailiuk on the defensive end. And Mason lobbed it too high for Azubuike. And Jeter clubbed at the other end.
Boy, what a deflating play for Kansas. Made such a great play, then pitched it away and wound up giving a foul up on the other end. That's quite a turnaround.
2 for the change. So, hey,
yeah.
we're both aging well. What do you remember
Bald
about?
is still funny.
Yeah, Bald is always funny. What do you remember about that game and about? I mean, that was your senior year, from when you came in '82 to a team that did not have the kind of pedigree that the Duke program has had for many years now. But what do you remember from '82 going through to '86, growing with that group?
Oh, what I remember about the whole thing? How great Johnny Dawkins, Mark Allery, Tommy Amaker, and David Henderson were. That's what I remember. Those guys were studs. That team had a hole in the middle, but everything else was good.
And you went on to play Louisville in the championship game after beating Kansas.
You can stop right there.
I'm sorry.
We don't need to discuss this anymore.
You played in a national championship game.
I know, right? And I think I did a great job on Purvis Ellison. He only had 25, and I think he would have had 40 against a lesser defender.
That's true.
But I know that's why I'm so popular in Louisville. I hung a banner for them.
Was it after that game when you got the nickname Never Nervous Purvis?
No, that's when I got the nickname Get Out of Here and Don't Come Back.
You're self-deprecating, my friend, but a big part of a team that went to a national championship game. Mikhailiuk finds Graham.
How about the pass? Like, Svi Mikhailiuk is a really good player. And he's so young when he got to Kansas. What was he, like 16 years old?
He's a sophomore now. He showed up at 17. He's barely 18 now. 6'8", great shooter. He deflected that ball, knocked it away.
He is having a terrific game. But he has got to get open for shots. He needs to start. Kansas hasn't made a three, and he's the guy that can make some.
Brandon Lucas backing down Jefferson. They battle underneath. Lucas gets it back, kicks it back out at a fresh 30. Mason is fouled.
Good drive by Frank Mason. How do you guard that guy? It's like guarding a bowling ball. Mikhailiuk is one skilled player, 6'8". That is a sweet pass. That went right by the ear of Frank Jackson, who was in good position. And a great cut by Devontae Graham. Anytime somebody dribbles at you and you're in the corner, a basket cut is really hard to defend. Because your defender is going to get caught looking at the ball. How about Kansas battling back to get in a position to tie this game?
In spite of the foul trouble, they're navigating their way through it. Nobody has picked up their third yet. This is the fourth tie of the game.
Bill Self, Curtis Townsend, Norm Roberts, they've all got two also.
What you think, by the way, what you think of Kentucky in their win over Michigan State in game one?
How good was Malik Monk? Holy cow.
Nice move there. Spinning basket by Jefferson. Malik Monk, if you missed it, one of the great freshmen for Kentucky, made 7 threes in the first game as they beat the Spartans 69-48.
2-3 zone by Duke right now, giving Kansas a little bit of a different look. This might be the Jim Boeheim influence on Mike Krzyzewski. Nice pass. Where you get that, and you get that ball into the short corner and you get a little dive there, that is really hard to defend.
And tied again.
I actually think Duke calls that orange. That's their call for the 2-3 zone.
As a tribute to Jim Boeheim.
Yeah, they go with a lot of color schemes too.
Corner three, Jackson, air ball. And the Jayhawks have a chance to take the lead.
But with all this foul trouble, Kansas has hung in there. Duke back to man-to-man now.
The only lead of the game for the Jayhawks was at 2-0. Lucas. Taken away by Kennard.
What a defensive play by Luke Kennard.
And he picks up an assist on the three by Matt Jones. What a sequence.
That was big time. Not only getting the steal, but then having the presence of mind to go down and get an open three. The transition defense back in the day, you'd go down and protect the basket. Now you got to run to that three-point line.
Back into the zone. Graham will knock down the three.
That's their first one, I think.
In 8 attempts, and we're tied again.
Well, this has been like a rumble.
Allen driving on Vic. Reverse, yes.
He started that drive from where it says Madison Square Garden up by the hash mark. And Kansas was very smart to make him make a tough shot and not foul.
Mason with a pull-up over Kennard. Tough shot. Tied again.
Frank Mason, the last three that Devontae Graham hit, he was telling the officials, hey, the guy hit me when I was shooting. And then Frank Mason saying the same thing right now. And these guys are not complaining.
Allen whips a pass to Jackson. Baseline drive. The kick to Jefferson. And he draws the foul on Lucas. And Lucas, that will be his third. 3:37 to go. Tied at 29. The Stars trading baskets. Grayson Allen with that drive from the MSG side, as Jay pointed out. And then the answer to the other end from Frank Mason, the third, the senior, knocking down the 16-footer.
He doesn't look any different.
And still, and you could say the same for Bill Self, John Calipari, and Tom Izzo, and all the great coaches. But boy, the competitive fire, you know, just from my casual point of view calling games of his, I mean, that fire burns just as strongly now as it did back then.
Yeah, and that's one of the most impressive things. I think that's exactly right, that he hasn't lost a step. He's actually gained a step. And, you know, things you mentioned about all the coaches here, we're in an era of amazing coaches. And like Bill Self, you know, the three of the coaches in this out of this four are already in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. That guy right there is going to be in very short order. There's no question about it.
and deservedly so. Let's get more now from Maria Taylor.
Bill Self was really praising his team for ball movement and their ability to get back into the game, tying it up, saying he wants to take the lead into the locker room. But Devontae Graham said one thing they're focused on is they feel like they took possessions off in that overtime loss to Indiana, something that they're trying to shore up here in the first half, guys.
All right, thank you, Maria. Boy, when they were down, now wait a minute, after the play, Vic kept driving and Jeter some contact, but some sportsmanship shown on both sides. If you weren't with us earlier, Kansas was down 15-6 and already had 3 players with 2 fouls before the midway point of the first half, but they have managed to work around the foul trouble and they've gotten back into the game. And that foul on Luke Kennard of Duke, that is his 3rd, so he will head to the bench. And LeGerald Vick is at the line for the Jayhawks with a chance to give KU the lead.
You know, on that play, sometimes you wonder, is it better just to let him go? Not saying let him score, but kind of let him go.
And over the back, Azubuike. 3rd on Azubuike, so foul trouble to a somewhat of an extent for both teams. Kennard has 3 for Duke, Allen and Jeter each with 2. And now Lucas has 3, remember, for Kansas, and Azubuike just picked up his 3rd. And they don't have a ton of big guys.
Some of the walk-ons better get warmed up.
Bragg's been out for a while because he picked up 2 very quickly. Mitch Lightfoot, number 44, is a guy that we could see, a freshman
from Arizona, and a really talented player.
Are they, here he comes. Are they looking younger or are we getting older?
You're getting older. I'm still looking younger.
That wasn't one of the 2 options I presented to you.
So I'm going off the board, Alex. I'll take older looking Canadians for 400, Alex.
And here comes Lightfoot. Bill Self doing a little hard coaching over with Azubuike on the bench right now after that foul.
Yeah, going over the back on a free throw block out is not a smart foul. You got to think about maybe in high school you could get those. You're not going to get many of those in college.
Mikhailiuk picks up his dribble, knocked away by Jefferson. Still Kansas ball. You got to figure 2 goals for Kansas in the last 3 minutes here. Stay close and don't have Mason pick up his 3rd foul here this half.
Absolutely, and I don't think he will. He's a smart player. With this lineup out on the floor, you know, Duke can really switch 1 through 4. I don't think they'll be switching all that much with Chase Jeter, although they could. But you can switch with basically anybody.
And worth pointing out again on the other side, we showed you the graphic that Grayson Allen has 2 fouls for Duke as well. So that's just as important for the Blue Devils that he not pick up his 3rd.
Good gracious, inbound the ball. So much discussion about where the guy can stand. Just inbound the darn thing.
High arcing 3 by Mason. I think just the length of Jones there forced him to alter that shot a little bit.
Yeah, one of the first bad shots they've taken. Walk.
Good defense there by Lightfoot, and Jeter called for the travel. College football Saturday coming your way. Ohio State, we just found out that they are number 2. They'll take on Michigan State. We found out between games 2 that Michigan is number 3. They'll host Indiana and Oklahoma and West Virginia, the ABC game on Saturday night. Lightfoot for 3.
All these shots right now for Kansas are coming off of 1 pass. Maria Taylor had said before that Bill Self out of the huddle was praising his team for moving the ball. And now they have 2 straight possessions where they don't move it at all. And not surprisingly, they don't get anything. And there's no, you take a shot like that, there's no rebounding. And they've done a really good job on the offensive glass. But you run bad offense, you're not going to have a chance to get an offensive rebound.
Allen over Graham. And Lightfoot has it taken away, but he's fouled by Jones.
Well, that was not a good shot by Grayson Allen. And that leads to a foul by Matt Jones. Now all of a sudden they're walking, I don't know how many feet to get to the free throw line where Kansas can score with no defense.
Second on Jones, and Lightfoot to the line for the Jayhawks. Himself says he's got great energy, but sometimes actually he needs to slow down a little bit. Not that the game's going too fast for him, but he needs to slow down a little bit. And he knew he missed that one. He was walking across the line before he missed it. The guys are back for halftime, the Jeep halftime report, because bald is never not funny. Excuse the double negative. Reese Davis, Seth Greenberg, Jay Will. They'll look back at the first game, also recap the tip-off marathon as well.
Did you hear Greenberg say they're going to call a walk there? Did you hear Greenberg say on game day before the first game of the Champions Classic that he's Inspector Clouseau? Like he wanted to say, well, I'm gonna really start, digging into the game and all this stuff. Inspector Clouseau.
That was the reference.
Who might have been the biggest screw up in history.
But that's why we love Seth.
Now, Seth and Reese tried to bail him out by saying, well, Inspector Clouseau took a tortured route but ultimately got to the right place. I think that nickname's going to stick with Coach Greenberg for a while. Is that your dog? Does your dog bite?
That is not my dog. How was that flight back from Hawaii sitting beside Coach Greenberg?
He snores.
Graham. Vic. And Vic called for the travel. Pretty good job there by Jeter, not letting that guard get around him.
Yeah, you got to go up and shoot that. Once you make that spin move, go up and shoot it. Good job by Jeter to move his feet. And you got to go up here. You're just asking for a walk. But that was good defense, and not many big guys move their feet that well to stay in front of a smaller guard.
Vic giving up a lot of size to Jefferson in that matchup. Allen with a drive, had it rejected. I think Lightfoot got it. And Allen is down behind the play. Allen is still lying down. It will be Duke ball. Grayson Allen still down on the court, clutching his right calf.
Not sure whether that's a cramp, but he was holding his face when he first went down. But it was a really good hesitation move off that high screen off the handoff.
Landed awkwardly with his right leg underneath him.
Well, that was a nice play by Lightfoot. He brought his arm down, though, and oftentimes the referees call a foul on that. If you go straight up, at first he went straight up, and then he brought it down, and he did catch him in the face. Yeah. That's surprising when you're shooting. That's not a foul, but boy, right early on, that's perfect to go straight up. But then I don't know how you can't call that a foul. That is a foul.
So Allen getting some medical attention at the end of the Duke bench right now. One of the top, maybe the top preseason candidate for National Player of the Year. He's on every All-American team that you can find. Tonight, just 1 for 7 to 5 points as they tend to his right leg.
Boy, they've guarded him really effectively. And Kansas has stayed in front for the most part and tried to make him finish over the top. He's taken a couple of questionable ones. His last jump shot was a bad shot.
Jefferson got it.
When you play off of Emil Jefferson, he can take up that space, drives to the left and spins back to the right. That's a veteran move.
And he's the high scorer in the game. He's got 11 points. Allen will make his way to the locker room with a half not that far away. Concern on the Duke side over the health of Allen. They lead Kansas by 5. 3 injured freshmen, and now, at least for the moment, without the services of Grayson Allen after that right leg kind of buckled awkwardly underneath him.
Just landed unusually there. You see is that his foot kind of got caught. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that.
And was eventually able to get up and walk off the court under his own power with a little bit of assistance. He's gone to the locker room now. Into the game now for Duke for the first time is Javin DeLaurier, another freshman. He's from Shipman, Virginia, 6'10", 220. He wears number 12.
Big, strong, and athletic.
Vic for 3. And Jefferson having himself quite a night, brings down the rebound.
Duke's had some success getting the ball to the elbow. There it is.
Jefferson backing down to Mikhailiuk. Kicks it back out to Jones. Reposts. Couldn't bank home this one. Out of bounds to Duke. Now with the shot clock turned off.
After the repost by Jefferson with that little turnaround jumper, 2 Jayhawks went to block it. That left the offensive glass wide open. And if that for Frank Mason knocking that out of there, that would have been an easy Duke putback.
Kennard back in for what should be the final offensive possession of the half for Duke. Kennard with some foul trouble, but they'll put him back in there. Coach Gale put him back in there on offense.
Get down to the last play of the half. Oftentimes it's not just the shot, it's the second shot. You got to rebound this.
Jackson, left-handed floater, tipped back in, but wave it off. Basket interference, the call on Jeter.
Awfully close. Well, that was no question the call was right, but there was nobody that laid a body on Chase Jeter, and that was still right on above the cylinder. Boy, he was right there. That's just what we were talking about oftentimes it's the offensive rebound that gets you. There's still plenty of time for Kansas to get the ball down the floor.
4 seconds. Graham with a lot of speed. Some contact with Jackson. No foul call as he turns in the direction of one of the officials in the end of the half. Lots of fouls and some foul trouble for both teams heading into the second half. Duke leading Kansas 34-29. Maria's with Bill Self.
Coach, there were times when the offense seemed stagnant and times when the buckets came easy. What fueled the offensive runs during this first half?
Well, we played with lineups we never practiced before, so that's probably part of it. But we were so impatient offensively, and of course, you know, you can't foul that much and have to play with guys that we really hadn't practiced that much with the first team. But hopefully we'll regroup and play a lot smarter this half.
How are you able to manage playing through all that foul trouble with Frank Mason, your senior guard, being on the bench for part of the first half?
Well, a lot of our guys were on the bench, but certainly Frank played smart when he got back in there. But we got to play much smarter, and our shot selection wasn't good at all. We've got to attack the basket.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
But in spite of all that, only down 5. Duke 34, Kansas 29 at halftime. When we come back, the Jeep halftime report. Reese Davis, Seth Greenberg, Jay Williams.
9 from the free throw line, 1 of 8 from 3. And the Jayhawks are only down 5. I think they've got to feel pretty comfortable that they're in a decent position given how things went in the first half.
Let's get an update now from Maria.
Well, you guys are right. You saw Grayson Allen come out. He was the last player to take the court, but Jeff Capel saying that he is good to go. And Grayson Allen says that one of the things that he's been focusing on, along with Emil Jefferson, is more than just scoring. It's also the leadership that they have with him on the court. But the focus for Duke, offensively, making the extra pass. Jeff Capel saying they just weren't good on offense.
First play, set play here to start the second half. They go for a lob attempt to Josh Jackson. They went to him down on the block to start the game. What do you need to see if you're Bill Self? What do you need to see from Jackson this half?
Stay in the game. You know, he picked up a technical foul and then another foul quickly after that. And as a freshman, you had to take him out of the ball game. And he's got to stay in the game because he can do some really good things out there. Great move.
At 5'11", he just gets where he needs to get. It's so tough to keep Mason out of the paint.
Yeah, I had mentioned before, I mean, it's like guarding a bowling ball going down the alley. How do you stay in front of him? And he's so strong.
He starts on Grayson Allen, who's 1 for 7, 5 points on the night. Knocked away, stolen by Jackson, all the way.
Well, that's the kind of player that Josh Jackson can be. Make one mistake, and he is taking it the other way. And that's really the first transition basket, the first offense that's been generated off this Kansas defense in the game.
And KU back within 1 of Duke.
Important for Kansas here to stay disciplined. You can see Landon Lucas not even going out to guard Chase Jeter.
Lucas playing with 3 fouls. Jefferson looking for help. Finds Jones. And he knocks down a tough 3 from deep in the corner.
If you don't make Matt Jones put it on the deck, but he is a good shooter when he's allowed to set his feet. You have so many different weapons out on the floor for Duke.
Mason kicks to the corner. Graham, Jackson, the extra pass to Lucas. Can't knock it down.
Well, the problem is the extra pass. Lucas is not their best jump shooter.
Nearly stolen again by Jackson. And he just got called for a foul.
Oh, wow. That's a tough call there for Josh Jackson. He did everything right. You know how disappointed he's got to be. Knocked that ball away. No, that's good job by Devontae Graham. Knocks it away. You got to call a tie up there. That's ridiculous. That's a bad call. That's a tie up. That's a bad call.
And it's his third, and he will come out of the game, and Bill Self will stop him on the way to the bench. And whether he's consoling him or lecturing him or a bit of both, who knows? But boy, he had a great couple of minutes here to start the second half before he picked up a very tough foul call.
Well, I guess he's talking to him about keeping his composure. That after the foul was called, he went after it. He made a good play. There was nothing wrong with that play. It was an unfortunate call from a Kansas perspective, but he's got to stick with it.
Now Bragg comes up with a steal. Ahead to Mikhailiuk. Cross-court look. Mason. Count the basket.
What a pass by Mikhailiuk. That's the second great pass he's made in this game.
He was awfully good in the game against Indiana out in Hawaii, coming off the bench as well. And with Jackson on the bench, Mikhailiuk will get more minutes. And Kansas down by 2.
And Duke's turnovers, they had 11 in the first half. They have started the second half turning the ball over, but a needle threaded by Mikhailiuk. What a play.
App and watch ESPN.
After that last turnover, Frank Mason taking the ball to the basket. And Grayson Allen got a finger on it, but he got a finger on it after it hit the backboard. So by rule, that's goaltending. The referees didn't call it, but it went in anyway. So what do you say? You don't say no harm, no foul. No harm, no goaltending.
And Mason was joking about it with a couple of the officials coming out of the timeout. Something he could do because the ball did wind up going through the basket.
It's a lot funnier when it goes through the net.
Yeah. So big development here in the second half. Josh Jackson into the bench with his third foul.
Mason on Grayson Allen. And Allen's got to work hard to get the ball. He needs to drive Mason here.
Using the screen from Jeter.
A good help by Landon Lucas.
Floater by Allen. Left it short. Bragg comes up with it. He's going to look for a guard. He'll find Graham.
Great defense by Mason.
Graham ties the game at 37.
And Bill Self looking at the official saying, well, that was a call. Every play in the first half, that would have been a foul. Boy, how good are these Kansas guards?
And Graham called for a foul, his second.
Yeah, I think Bill Self is probably wondering, now wait, what's the difference? But I think that foul on Graham was the right call. The question is, was this one? And what a play to play through that contact.
Graham in double figures now, leading Kansas with 11. Emil Jefferson leads Duke with 11.
Kansas really doing a good job of staying in passing lanes and making the catch difficult for Duke. They've got to extend that catch and aren't able to run offense as smoothly as they'd like. And what a difference to play without fouling in the second half, at least early.
And the shot clock running down now on the Blue Devils. It's at 5. Allen bounce pass in traffic. Jeter has it knocked away. And a reach-in foul is called on Jefferson, his third foul.
Kansas's defense is much more active. They're shrinking gaps. They're sticking with the shooters that Duke has. So they're not having to close out long on the best shooters. And then they are helping off Emil Jefferson and Chase Jeter, as they should. A much better defensive effort, much more discipline in the second half for Kansas, at least early. There's a two-game, they're high-low look.
And Lucas just got called for pushing off on Jeter, and he's going to walk right to the bench. He knows that he's going to have to sit down. That is the fourth on Landon Lucas.
Just trying to move him up the lane, and Bill Self is really upset with that. Saying, got to let the big guys play. And he's actually making a pretty good point on that one.
So Lucas will sit down for a while, and Udoka Azubuike, the freshman, is back into the game for the Jayhawks. And remember, he's got 3 fouls.
One of the things, Dan, there have been a ton of fouls called in this game, but with the exception of 1 or 2, they've all been the right call. These officials have done a good job. The players have to stop fouling.
Graham to Mason, count it, and a foul.
Yet another great play by Frank Mason in transition. One of the hardest times to try to draw a charge. And Matt Jones, who's an excellent defender, jumped in front.
And that's the third on Matt Jones. And Bill Self, so unhappy moments ago, feeling a little bit better right now. Mason to the line. And we've got a lane violation, I believe. No, we've got a foul on Bragg. A lane violation or a foul? It's a lane violation on Carlton Bragg, so that'll nullify the free throw.
I'm a big believer that if the ball goes in, there shouldn't be any violation unless there's some egregious foul. That the only time a violation would be called on a free throw is if the shot's missed, because that's the only time it advantages the game.
Kennard with the elbow jumper to tie it at 39. We're going to find out a little bit about the depth of both of these teams, with the fouls continuing to pile up here early in the second half.
They got off to a good start without fouling the first 4 minutes, and then it's just been a flurry of fouls.
And Mikhailiuk, after he passed the ball off, you could kind of see it coming from our angle as Allen stepped in and took the charge, and Mikhailiuk called for the time. Timeout on the floor, tied at 39. Lots to get excited about, lots to look forward to here. We are very early in this college basketball season, and boy, some notable games today, with Wisconsin losing to Creighton, with Oregon losing to Baylor.
Oregon playing shorthanded without Dylan Brooks. But for Wisconsin to go into Creighton and get beat, Creighton's got a really good tandem of guards.
Jeter off to Kennard.
Good shot fake.
Jeter banging with Azubuike, kicks it to Jefferson, shot clock at 4. Allen, 18-footer, no. And Azubuike with a rebound for the Jayhawks.
Well, Allen really hasn't gotten one open shot.
Josh Jackson back into the game. Floater is good.
How much ability does this young man have? He's just going to get better and better. Struggled in his first game against Indiana. Wound up with 9 points. He's been much better, even though sitting out most of the first half with a couple of fouls.
And Bill Self showing some faith in him by putting him back in there with 3 fouls early in the second half as Emil Jefferson gets called for the foul, and that's his 4th.
Yeah, I think Emil Jefferson saying, hey, what do you want me to do? I'm just wedging in. It's not like I pushed off. I was holding my ground, let the ball go over the top. But the freedom of movement initiative and trying to clean some things up, they're going after rebounding too. And I'm not sure that was a major issue.
So Mike Krzyzewski goes small, bringing Frank Jackson in off the bench, and Bill Self with his counter move took Azubuike out and brought LeGerald Vick into the game. So both teams really with 4 perimeter players right now. Jackson driving on Jones, and Jones is called for the foul.
You really have to try to angle a driver out and make him make a tough shot. But that's what they've been looking for from Josh Jackson. Put the ball on the deck and drive it. Don't just be a jump shooter.
Jay, that's 4 on Matt Jones. And he is still in the game, and nobody's gone to the scores table.
You got a senior out there. You got to rely on the fact that he knows how to play with fouls.
And a block called
Inside of the circle.
Yep, as Chase Jeter tried to step in and draw the charge. That'll be the 3rd on Jeter. There's growing frustration in this game between the officials and the players. The players complaining about the calls, the officials telling them to knock it off.
They haven't complained that much. The players have just reacted a little bit, but you got to give them a little bit of reaction.
Graham misses a deep 3, long rebound to Mason. Now Bragg with a size advantage on Jones. Jump hook, no. And down with the rebound is Frank Jackson. What do you like about Jackson's game?
He is so strong. It's so explosive.
And now Bragg is unhappy with the call, and now the fans are getting frustrated as the booing increases here with all the whistles. 3rd on Bragg. But your feeling is, by and large, it's up to the players to play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
For most of these fouls, there are a couple that I don't agree with, but most of them have been right.
Jeter misses a putback slam opportunity. Jackson switches hands and banks it home. Kansas by 4.
You can't say enough about the defensive change of Kansas in the second half. They've been much better defensively. Duke has not gotten anything easy.
Jeter got 2 defenders in the air and eventually drew the foul, and no disputing that one. It's on Graham.
Josh Jackson is a multi-dimensional talent, a much better shooter than he gets credit for, but this is where he can be special. In transition, switching hands, going to the left, kissing it off the glass. He's an excellent passer. With his length, can be an outstanding defender. But look how much more efficient he is in this game versus his first game in Honolulu against Indiana, where he was primarily a jump shooter.
And Jay, the foul actually not on Graham. Graham put his arm up in the air as if signaling, hey, it was on me, but it was on Carlton Bragg. It's his 4th. So Bragg sits down and Azubuike back into the game. So it's Bragg and Lucas with 4 for Kansas, and Jones and Jefferson with 4 for Duke, as Jeter misses both.
Right now, if Azubuike gets the ball in the lane, he needs to go straight up. With his strength, he can't mess around with the ball. Just straight up to the basket.
Jackson for 3. And the lead grows for Kansas. It's now 7 in a game in which they trailed by 9 in the opening minutes.
You know what helped him with that shot, Dan, was the fact that he has gotten so many things going to the basket. You put it through the basket a few times, all of a sudden the basket looks bigger when you're taking a jump shot.
Kennard threads the needle inside, and Mason fouls Jeter. And Mason just picked up his 3rd.
And that was not a smart play by Frank Mason. Sometimes you got to let it go. You can't get that foul back. You can get a bucket back. You cannot get a foul back. And there's still almost 13 minutes to go in regulation. You can't be cavalier with fouls. You got to admire that Frank Mason will not give up. And one of the problems with Josh Jackson sold out there, just stay between Jeter and the basket, make him score over you.
1 of 2 for Jeter.
And you have to look at it this way, Dan. If Josh Jackson had stayed between Jeter and the basket, he may have scored, but Mason wouldn't have picked up his 3rd foul. Do your job.
Azubuike from Mason.
And that's his job. Catch and go straight up. He's got really good feet, doesn't he?
He is huge, 7 foot, 280. And Kansas now up by 8. Kennard for 3.
That was much better offense. Grayson Allen got it in the middle, drew the defense, and you really can't leave. You're better off once Allen gets into the lane of making him take a tough 2 instead of coming off a 3-point shooter. Good fake.
Jackson will step in and knock down the long 2, and Josh Jackson's on fire right now. He's got 15.
Well, this is why everybody's talking about Josh Jackson, myself included, as being such a great talent. You can see it now. You couldn't see it quite as much in the first game against Indiana.
Stolen away by Azubuike. Big fella. Finishes strong. And the Kansas bench and fans erupt.
You know what's great about that? He got an offensive rebound and a bucket. Moses Malone.
Yeah. When he started dribbling that ball, that basket must have seemed like it was about a mile away. But he stayed with it. Jones open for 3. Azubuike rips down another one. They need big minutes from him. Lucas is in foul trouble.
Boy, what a turnaround. Kansas down 9 early in the game, up 9.
And Mason will draw the foul. It's a 19-6 run right now for the Jayhawks.
Well, a couple of freshmen in the last few plays have stepped up big for the Jayhawks. First, Josh Jackson, 15 points. How about that shot fake? Frank Jackson flies by. Josh Jackson drills it. And have you ever seen a truck running away? That's the end of the play. They needed one of those truck escape lanes for Azubuike.
Okay.
Back off.
Sorry.
I'm a young man.
I was there for the first night. The inductees into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame that night included Yao Ming, Shaquille O'Neal, Allen Iverson, Tom Izzo. I mean, it was a star-studded couple of nights in Springfield.
There were a lot of the variance in podium was pretty interesting. When Yao Ming got up there, and then when Izzo got up there, you saw only Izzo's head.
You think Shaq's a huge guy, and then Yao Ming walks into the room.
Yeah, Shaq was awesome. I mean, and Allen Iverson was off the charts. I mean, it was so interesting listening to his speech. And boy, Philly turned out for AI at that thing. It was really a phenomenal night.
Let's go to Maria Taylor.
Dan, it's been interesting to watch Coach K's huddle. When the Kansas run started, he was challenging every player when they came over, really fired up, trying to get the energy back. This most recent huddle, very calm, pragmatic, asking the players what they are seeing, ways in which they can improve the way that they're playing, but really saying, we're okay, guys. It was much more, the tone was lower than what I've seen when the Kansas run started over here.
All right, Maria, thank you. It's up to a 10-point lead right now. And the foul is going to be on LeGerald Vick.
Yeah, Vick needed to let Udoka Azubuike be big behind him. Yeah, you don't want to foul and take away the ability of a shot blocker to block or change a shot. And right now, Maria Taylor's right. Like right now, the second half, the offensive performance that has been fueled by the defense of Kansas has been really impressive. Kansas in the second half, 11 of 15, 73%. Duke's 3 of 12.
Duke's only scored 10 points in the second half.
Yeah, it's really been an impressive defensive performance by Kansas. Much more disciplined. Now, hey, one of the things they've had all their players on the floor. They haven't had to sit guys because of foul trouble for most of the second half. And it's still only halfway through the second half.
And Josh Jackson, after picking up a third foul early in this half, came back into the game and has played great since he's got 11 points here in the second half. As Vick finishes and draws the foul on Jackson to boot.
Boy, after the initial drive and then the pass to the corner, oftentimes what guys will do is look for the shot. LeGerald Vick really attacked that closeout. And Luke Kennard came out to take away the shot and instead gave up the middle drive. That's a big-time smart play by LeGerald Vick, who in his second year at Kansas really is starting to feel like he belongs and deserves to be out there, is playing with confidence. He's really turned into a good player.
You talk to people within the Kansas program, and they'll say, Vick's one of the better players on the team. He's just growing into his talent right now.
And learning to play, use his length on defense, but Kansas is touching the paint. They are not settling for jump shots.
Kennard knocks down a 3. Big bucket for the Blue Devils.
And he can really shoot it. At 30 last year against Notre Dame in a loss at Cameron. But he only shot 32% for 3. This year he's been one of the more consistent performers in the 2 exhibitions and the first 2 regular season games.
Azubuike. Jefferson, remember, has 4 fouls. Azubuike gets it back, surrounded, forces it up and in. Freshman's working hard.
Well, for him to come into this game, and you could have looked at this on paper and said, this is not the type of game for Udoka Azubuike. You may have to guard out the perimeter. He's really come in and done a nice job.
And Jackson is fouled.
Azubuike got the ball in the post, and you got a really good defender behind him in Emil Jefferson just trying to make him score over. But for him to go that hard after the ball with both hands, absorb the bump, and still score, I think he thought he was strong there.
Jay, number 4 on Josh Jackson. He's been such a huge part of the Kansas story here in the second half.
And that's another learning experience. Frank Jackson right underneath the basket. Look, you don't want to say let him score, but you got to let him score. You can't get that foul back.
So if you look at Jackson's 4 fouls, one of them was that play. One of them was reaching over a Duke player who was on the ground trying to get a held ball situation. One of them was a technical foul for slapping a ball away. As good as he's been tonight could have been way different for him.
Yes.
And again, he'll learn. He'll learn.
I mean, the only rough, look, he shouldn't have gotten a technical foul. He lost his composure just for a second. Good pass in there.
Azubuike playing with some confidence right now, just bowling his way to the rim, but he can't finish.
Well, that was a good defensive play by Jefferson, just making Azubuike have to score over him or through him walk. Going back to Josh Jackson, that one foul that he got at midcourt going after a loose ball was just unfortunate. You want him to go after the ball. I mean, I felt that should have been a held ball, but you know, those things will go against you. But picking up the technical and then getting that last foul, those are the ones you want to avoid. Those could have been and should have been avoided by a more experienced player.
So Jackson to the bench. Mikhailiuk from the corner. And Azubuike wrestles it free. And they get another possession out of it. And Azubuike's doing exactly what you said he should do, Jay. He's just trying to go straight to the rim every time he can. Out of control. Graham. How did he do that?
How did he stay on his feet? I mean, most guys would have fallen down face first. He not only stayed on his feet, but was able to finish that play. That was a big-time play. And I'll tell you what, you got to give LeGerald Vick a lot of credit for keeping that ball alive.
Now a turnover, miscommunication. It's Mason with a reverse.
Kansas has played a fabulous second half, especially on the defensive end.
They are outscoring Duke 33-16 here in the second half. Jefferson fouled.
You know, that's one thing where Udoka Azubuike can't just reach in there. But Kansas has been so good in this second half. Devontae Graham driving to the bucket. Most guys fall down there, and he's able to gather and finish that play with his right hand. And then Frank Mason, really bad pass, yet another turnover.
It is early yet. Azubuike just picked up his 4th foul. There are 4 Jayhawks, Jay, with 4 fouls, including Azubuike, who's got 12 rebounds in the game. And there are 2 Blue Devils with 4 fouls.
Well, Kansas has really done a great job on the glass. They've out-rebounded Duke, especially on the offensive end. Second chance points for Kansas, 18-2. And Grayson Allen has struggled like few games I have seen him play. He is 1 of 11 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. He's got 5 points in this game, having played 30 minutes.
Jefferson, one of the Blue Devils with 4 fouls. There were some odd numbers in this game. If you look at the stat sheet, Kansas 2 for 15 from 3, 4 for 12 from the line, and they've got a double-digit lead.
Yeah, that's really, it's been an unusual game in a lot of different ways. But Kansas has been so much tougher in this second half.
Lob inside. Azubuike.
Walked.
Boy, if the big fella can develop some finish, and he's still kind of raw, but if he can develop some finish, he's going to be a load down there.
No, he's already a load. He's going to be really good. And just has to work on catching and going straight up. He's so powerful. Gerald Vick guarding Grayson Allen, not coming off of him.
Too easy for Matt Jones down the lane, and Duke cuts it to 9.
Well, it's too easy, but they gave up a 2 instead of giving up an open 3. And one of the things that Kansas is doing is they are really pressing up on three-point shooters, and the only open shots they've gotten really have been Luke Kennard. Matt Jones has gotten a couple. In the second half, they've shut a lot of that down.
Mason takes a bump from Frank Jackson and is fouled before the shot.
I don't know, unless his hands were on him, which I didn't see, I don't know what a guy could do there. I mean, he was angling him out. That did not seem like a foul to me. Yeah, he put his hands on him. Okay, that is a foul. 2 hands on the ball handler has been a foul for a million years. I didn't see those hands down. Otherwise, he was fine. Keep your hands off him. He was in very good position.
So it's Mason at the line, coming off the 30-point game in the overtime loss to Indiana in Honolulu a few days ago.
You know, Dan, just on the fouls, because I know a lot of people are going to be talking about this. There have been a lot of fouls in the game. The overwhelming majority of these calls have been absolutely right. And a lot of people think, well, it's the rules changes. The rules haven't been changed. They're now being enforced,
right.
And there's a difference. And you saw the players adjust really quickly last year, and they're going to need to adjust this year. You know, you can't die on the hill on every play.
Allen in and out on the 3.
Well, I've never seen him struggle quite like this since his freshman year. I think in this event against Kentucky a couple years ago, it might have been his freshman year, might have been last year, I can't remember. It was last year. He really struggled. So this event has not been particularly kind to Grayson Allen.
Nice look from Mason.
And Gerald Vick kept it alive again.
Bragg couldn't finish with a reverse, and back come the Blue Devils down by 10.
And that's head in the hands for Bill Self after that. That was an opportunity for an easy layup.
Allen with a drive, and he lays it in. Still a lot of time. Better than 6 minutes left. It's an 8-point game.
Yeah, that was a 4-point turnaround. A layup missed by Kansas, a layup made by Duke.
And Bill Self wants a timeout.
With all the fouls that have been called and all the fouls that have been racked up, especially that Kansas has on them now, Duke's got to continue to drive it. If they drive it and kick it to an open three-point shooter, pull the trigger. Otherwise, keep touching the paint off the dribble.
We saw a Josh Jackson out in Hawaii for Kansas who took a lot of jump shots, did not shoot the ball well, did not have a great debut for Kansas. We've seen a different Josh Jackson when he's been able to stay in the game here tonight.
Yeah, and you've seen a more aggressive Josh Jackson driving the ball, and they're straight line drives, not angle drives. And you can see his length and athleticism. He has been much better defensively. Now, in large measure, he stayed in the game. First half, he spent most of the time on the pine with foul trouble. Second half, he's been able to show his talent and his creativity in driving it. Not just driving it for him to score, but driving to create as well. And you can see that's an efficient backcourt right there. I mean, putting the wing Josh Jackson in there with the backcourt of Frank Mason, Devontae Graham. Those are really good shooting numbers, and that's where the efficiencies come from, out of the guards. This is a guard-oriented Kansas team, which is a little bit unusual for Bill Self.
That was a look at tonight's right combination, brought to you by State Farm, and it's a combination that figures to click a lot for the Jayhawks here this season. 5:59 to go and back in play to Kansas.
Really for Kansas, don't you think one of the key guys for them to be really successful has got to be Charles Bragg?
Absolutely.
He improved his play, and here he is.
And Jeter called for the foul, and Bragg will head to the free throw line. They don't have that many bodies up front, and Bragg, you talked about him pick and pop, can knock down a jumper, but boy, if they can score inside more, Bill Self will be really happy.
Anytime you get a baseline drive, the big guy wants to try to get in front of the basket, and that's exactly what Carlton Bragg did right there. Chase Jeter a little bit behind the play, had to foul to keep him from flushing it.
Gets the bounce. Jeter his fourth. So 3 Blue Devils and 4 Jayhawks with 4 fouls. Or he used a lot of the rim, but he made them both.
Kansas has really struggled from the line tonight. Otherwise, this lead would be stretched out a little bit more.
Kennard, tough shot.
A good help by Carlton Bragg for a couple of... If you guard a ball screen for a couple of dribbles, then you can be really effective. But Bragg did that and forced Luke Kennard to shoot over him.
Number 1 Duke, number 7 Kansas, and the Jayhawks, who were down 15-6 early, up by 10. Graham finds Vick, and Vick called for the travel.
They're just in too much of a hurry.
And Jackson will return for Kansas with 4 fouls. A rare breather for Devontae Graham tonight. Neil Jefferson is back in with 4 fouls for Duke.
You know, that last walk by Gerald Vick, one of the things that Kansas likes to do is they want to move the ball from side to side. And when their offense hasn't been good, they've gone off of one side of the floor. When they moved it to the second side, when they moved it to the third, there's another foul on Josh Jackson.
And he just fouled out of the game. He is beside himself. The way he was pleading his case, I mean, he doesn't think he did anything wrong, and we'll have to get another look and see what he was called for.
Yeah, he was guarding Luke Kennard. It looked like there was contact, but he's saying Kennard sold it. You know, most people aren't watching off the ball, but you can't grab a cutter. And I had actually thought that it was a missed call in the first half, the second foul on Frank Mason. Turns out he grabbed Grayson Allen, the cutter. It was the absolute right call. Here you can see just off the ball on the left side, there's a little wide pin down, and Josh Jackson's guarding Kennard. And it didn't look like he grabbed him, but
I'd like to see that again. Maybe we can get a closer look at that.
But that's what good cutters do. You know, they sell those things, and sometimes the referees fall for it.
Jackson played much better tonight, but again, the minutes severely limited because of foul trouble as Mason gets all the way to the glass.
They couldn't grab him there. He was by you too quick. My goodness, how explosive was that move?
A bowling ball with an extra gear.
Unbelievable.
Allen with a shot fake. Vic stays in front of him. Jones bounce pass in traffic. The reverse for Frank Jackson.
Now this game is about stops. Timeout Duke. But this game is about getting stops now. With 4:28 left in regulation. Can you get stops and consecutive stops and then score?
We'll be back to the Garden momentarily. Kansas up 8, looking to beat the #1 team, the Duke Blue Devils. Had my arm straight out, and he threw his hands up. And you could read his lips. We'll get another look. The left arm of Jackson is extended as he tries to fight around the screen.
But he's behind the screen. Like, look, Kennard sold it. But instead of getting on his outside hip and just locking and trailing him around the screen, making him curl it, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to catch the ball at the outside the three-point line at the top of the key, and you're trailing him. And look, we may be able to argue about that as being questionable. But out of all the fouls that have been called tonight, there have been a bunch of them. What, 3 have been questionable? Or 4?
So if you're Jackson, for him to learn from this, in your judgment, how should he make that play so that he doesn't wind up in that kind of a dicey situation?
He's got 4 fouls.
Good catch.
He's got 4 fouls. He's got to be smarter. You know, that you have to play to your fouls. And I know he's a freshman and all that, but you know, right here, Devontae Graham's done a pretty good job off balance. Look, he uses his hand here to.
Yep. Look out, Tim, too. Nice catch by the way.
I've got great hands.
4 minutes to go. Jefferson around Bragg, who's playing with 4, can't finish.
That's really good defense, and that's sort of what I've been talking about. You don't foul him, you make him make a tough shot. You missed it.
And Frank Jackson called for the foul, bumping with Bragg, number 4 on Jackson.
Mike Krzyzewski and his staff telling Frank Jackson, don't reach. You're 35 feet from the basket. And now all of a sudden Kansas shooting free throws without really having to initiate any action.
That's a stat that'll make Bill Self happy. 44-24 points in the paint. As Bragg is at the line for the Jayhawks.
Well, they've been more aggressive certainly than they were against Indiana, driving the ball. And Bill Self and his staff felt that they were soft on the glass against the Hoosiers. They have not been soft on the glass in this one. You know, Kansas has done a really good job rebounding. Those free throw numbers, though, have got to be a little bit disturbing for Kansas.
Even with that make, they're under 50%. They're 8 for 18 in the game from the line. 2 for 16 from three-point range, and they're up by 9.
Up by 9. So you got to credit the defense.
Kennard to a wide open Allen. Got it. Down to 6.
So you cannot leave these Duke shooters. Bill Self calling a play right now. If you give up a tough 2, that's one thing. You give up an open 3, that's what can get you beat.
And Bragg taking advantage of the mismatch with Matt Jones. The assist to Devontae Graham.
Well, that was a big answer to that 3 by Grayson Allen. A really big answer.
Jackson
Got hit.
A chance for a 4-point play.
You cannot come off corner shooters. And as smart a player as Frank Mason is, he helps off a corner shooter, tries to recover, and then commits the cardinal sin of fouling a corner shooter. You know, there's no reason to help there. Devontae Graham's right there to make Luke Kennard take a tough 2. And all of a sudden you give up a step-in 3 and then make it worse by fouling. That has not been Frank Mason's career, where he's made less than smart plays.
And Jackson converts on the 4-point play. It's down to 4. 4th foul on Mason as well.
Duke is tough enough when you give up a 3. You can't give up a 4.
Everybody standing here at Madison Square Garden. Mason the drive. Lobs it inside for Bragg. And it's out of bounds to Kansas with 5 on the shot clock.
When Frank Mason left the floor, I don't think he had any idea where he was going to throw that ball.
That's why I had that surprise in my voice.
And he still was able to find Carl Bragg almost for an easy score.
Bragg deep in the corner.
Wow.
What a shot!
At 4 seconds left on the shot clock. What a pretty stroke by Carl Bragg.
Boy, 2 huge buckets for Kansas after a 3 and a 4-point play for Duke. Now Kennard on the drive, and it's back down to 4.
But at least for Kansas, they gave up a tough 2. They're not giving up a 3.
20 on the night now for Kennard, and Mason will milk the clock a little bit.
They're basically going to 2 guys in the corner, open up the middle for Frank Mason. Let him create.
Takes a bump and finishes.
They got to start calling this guy timeouts. I mean, he takes a beating and keeps going, keeps on ticking. He just body seeks. He goes right into the body of Emil Jefferson. Jefferson just brought those arms down a little bit. If he kept them straight up, I'm not sure that would have been whistled. But look how he keeps his eyes up. You know, I've said this before, your eyes make layups. You keep your eyes up and your eyes on the rim, you will complete plays. Man, that's big time.
And Jefferson fouled out on the play as well.
That guy's 5'10". And he's a great finisher.
He's as tough a customer as you'll see in college basketball.
And plays like that, that's the reason I think that Devontae Graham and Frank Mason may very well be the best starting guards in the country. And they play at both ends. They're excellent defenders, excellent passers, and excellent scorers.
Mason with 15 of his 19 here in the second half, and it's back to 7.
30 in the first game, 19 in the second and counting.
Kennard with a soft touch on the runner. He's got 22, and Mike Krzyzewski will use his last timeout.
Well, he scores in so many different ways. He's such an improved player. And Luke Kennard is way more than a shooter.
Tonight, after this game, here at the State Farm Champions Classic, the Sports Center at night with Scott Van. 5 minutes of the 38+ in this game.
Yeah, and throughout the course of the season, that's going to have to change. I mean, you can't wear guys out. That actually happened last year with Grayson Allen. I mean, he played way too many minutes. And, you know, this year for Kansas, Graham's been that guy.
Kansas ball with a 5-point lead and 1:34 to go. Duke out of timeouts.
You ought to feel awfully comfortable with the ball in Frank Mason's hands, don't you?
And if he has to give it up, if he gives it to Graham, you feel just as comfortable there. Lucas, Vic, and Mikhailiuk also in the game.
Good pass.
Vic wide open in the corner. Mikhailiuk with a weak side rebound. But he couldn't finish.
Boy, what a rebound, and then just didn't make the layup. And that was a big-time rebound by Mikhailiuk.
Boy, another missed opportunity. What a huge bucket that would have been. And all of a sudden, it's a one-possession game. A minute to go.
Boy, what a turnaround. I mean, miss a layup, give up a layup. Now this is about getting a stop for Duke. And it's about being strong enough, if you're Kansas, to get a score. Score or get fouled here, running good offense.
Boy, Mikhailiuk made a tremendous play to get that rebound and then just couldn't get the lift on the layup attempt.
You don't see many better rebounds than this from a wing. Mikhailiuk skied for it, went after it with both hands, and then goes up and just misses about as easy a shot as he's going to have in his career. And then Grayson Allen, as you have to do at the end of a ball game, you got to drive it. Drive it and put Kansas in a position to foul you. And then if they help off a three-point shooter, then you can kick out. But right now, Kansas, whether they score here or not, they can't afford to help off a three-point shooter. Right now, I think Kansas is going to put the ball, 22 seconds on the shot clock, 50 seconds left in regulation. You put the ball in Frank Mason's hands, spread the floor, let him drive it. Now, they've been bringing a high screen up. Landon Lucas came up and then, didn't even bother to slip it. He looked like he was coming up, then ran back down, and Mason was able to just take off. But if you can force him left, I think you're a little bit better off. Usually he drives right to take it all the way. If he does pull up, he pulls up going left.
50.4 seconds to go. Kansas with the ball. Duke out of timeouts. Duke has the arrow. And it'll be LeGerald Vick to inbound it for the Jayhawks.
Kansas right here does not want to settle. Even if you kick it out for a three, you can still drive it. And right now, if they're not able to get the ball into Frank Mason right away, oh, there they go.
He'll take a few seconds off to be sure. Shot clock now down to 15.
What a crossover.
Bumps with Jeter, and Jeter with a rejection out of bounds to Kansas, 10 to shoot.
Boy, that early bump. Thought Jeter could have picked up a foul there. That was good defense. That was solid. Really solid. Good job moving his feet.
Mikhailiuk back into the hands of Mason. Shot clock at 6. Mason gets it off. Tough shot, and rebound comes down to Kennard.
Don't want to give up a three here.
Allen has it knocked away. Kennard on the drive. Jackson to tie it. Got it! 15 seconds to go. Kansas does have a timeout.
Bill Self going to use it.
Frank Jackson, the freshman, tying the game with a three.
Boy, and the one thing we had talked about, do not come off a three-point shoot so that you have an opportunity for an offensive rebound. Kansas has done a really nice job on the offensive glass all game long. So you know there's going to be an initial push defensively, but we had talked about it earlier. Oftentimes the second shot is what can beat you in a situation like this.
Same 5 for each team, and again it'll be Vick inbounding for Kansas. Jones is on Mason.
Jones a great defender and bigger.
They'll let him catch it. 5 seconds to go. Mason the pull-up jumper. Yes! 1.8. Jackson to inbound. Matt Jones. And Kansas will win it.
Apropos of this game, Frank Mason, the toughest player on the floor, makes the winning play. How about that?
The Blue Devils go on a 7-0 run in the last minute and a half, only to have their hearts broken by Frank Mason III. The winning jumper, 21 points on the night, as the Jayhawks knock off the Blue Devils 77-75.
You know, Frank Mason had to go to overtime in Honolulu and didn't want to do it again. You know, we talked about forcing him left. That's where he likes to pull up. He pulled up and absolutely drilled it against an outstanding defender in Matt Jones. That's a big-time play.
Can you ever imagine